Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Ether Hub. I'm Simon, bringing you another Magic the Gathering story. Today we continue with Crimson Vow, as the aristocracy of Vampire High Society congregate for the wedding of Olivia Voldaren and Edgar Markov. In our last episode, which you can find on your screen right now or linked in the description below, we got our first inside look at the ceremony that would join these two powerful vampire families, and in the process, making Olivia the most dominant force on Innistrad. Soren Markov is soundly against this union and made his opinion quite known to his would-be step-grandmother. As their feud erupts, Olivia's wedding gift to the groom, the Archangel Sigarda, broke free and unleashed her holy wrath. Our latest story brings us into the tattered halls of Voldaren Manor, as our heroes, led by Arlinn, are given an impromptu invitation to the wedding. This is Chapter 9 of Crimson Vow's story, written by Arsenault, Rivera, Innistrad Objects. And as always, if you're enjoying the content here on the Ether Hub, consider supporting us by leaving a like, a comment, and becoming a subscriber. We're getting really close to hitting 100,000 people in our little community, and your support can help us get there. And now let's get back to the lore. A spear of light shatters the windows of Voldaren Manor. Invitation wards crumble, scattering ash-like on the winds. The air in Stensia is bright and clear for the first time in what feels like months. As clear as the goals of the gathered hopefuls. Tonight, they break down the doors of this awful castle. Tonight, they fight tooth, nail, claw, and sword to take back the day. Arlinn can't give the order fast enough. The moment she sees the angelic plume of light, she shouts to the others, "Now!" But they are already moving, holiness gilding them like saints, swords raised, and stallions rearing. Adeline is ahead of the pack, Chandra sitting behind her. Teferi hastens the footsteps of the surrounding foot soldiers as much as he can. The guards at the gates stand no chance against the gathered masses. Arlinn doesn't see who takes them down, only the lances piercing their chests, but she does taste their blood on the wind. Her senses sharpen. She sees beyond the gates, from the narrow walkway, trailing thin as thread above the abyss to the manor's sick tapestry. All of it will be torn down. The thought's a satisfying one. It was like her mother always used to say. Didn't matter how nice the pie looked, if you filled it with hot fish, it'd still taste rotten. And vampires left a rotten taste in everything they touched. Kaya's hand on her shoulder brings her back to the present moment, to the reality of it, instead of Arlinn's far-flung musings. "We've got to get going," she says. "Otherwise, there isn't going to be much left for us." She's right. Arlinn's learned that Kaya's right about a lot of things. After all this is over, she hopes the two of them can get to know each other better. Kaya, out of all the other planeswalkers, understood the delicate balance of life and death that so characterized Innistrad, and understanding Innistrad meant understanding Arlinn. "Try to keep up," she says, smiling. Kaya rolls her eyes, but she doesn't back down. The two of them join the crowd, Cathars mounted and unmounted, priests bearing herons and priests bearing Abyssinian collars, and farmers who have lost their families. Onward across the bridge, toward that den of depravity, the rush of the living and the mortal. Onward the lances, onward the hammers and shields, torches and pitchforks, the holy tomes, and the blessed blades. And downward come the bats. Distant at first, easily mistaken for pieces of fallen ash, but the sound soon drowns out that hope. Screeching pierces her sensitive ears. Arlinn covers one and tucks the other against her shoulder to try and block out the cacophony. It's no use. But what is useful are the bolts of magic hurled over her shoulder. Arrows too find their marks. As the bats descend, hungry for blood, the witches and archers are eager to meet them. Fur sizzles, the screeching worsens, and then goes silent. Her ears are still ringing as the bats go down. She can't hear the crunch of their bones beneath the boots of their makeshift army, but she can feel it. She can feel the shift beneath her too, as they move from simple stone to carefully curated marble. Up ahead, at the secondary gates, the guards have already been overwhelmed, floating face down in pools of blood. Maybe Kaya's right. If they aren't quick, there's hardly going to be anything left. But even a crowd of this size has trouble with gates. Kaya and Arlinn make their way through the crowd. It's easy enough. Many part for their erstwhile leader and her comrade in arms. Adeline, Teferi, and Chandra make up the vanguard standing before the great doors. Teferi tilts his head up, then shakes his head with a sigh. Awful taste. That's why we should light the whole thing on fire, Chandra says. You mean the door, don't you? Adeline asks. Chandra looks back toward her, smile straining. Right, just the door. Flames spiral around her arms, full of swagger. She advances, holding out her hands before her. Arlinn has half a mind to stop her. Fire's hard to deal with after all, and while it's harmful to vampires, it's harmful to their group too. But Avacyn preserves her. She just can't be mad about it. There's something satisfying about imagining Olivia's smug face burn. Teferi taps his staff against the ground. As amused as he is by the sight, they don't have much time to waste. The fire burns hotter, brighter, and faster, and soon the door before them is only ash. This is where the real assault begins. All of Voldaren Manor is open before them. Arlinn's never been personally, but she's heard stories. One wrong turn, and you'll never be heard from again. But that only applied if you wandered in alone. Arlinn always traveled with a pack. A pang of sadness follows the thought. Streak, Boulder, Patience, and Redtooth. If she tried, she could imagine where they might be right now. Somewhere with springy earth beneath their paws. Somewhere that smelled of pine. She feels alone. She knows she isn't. The light up ahead is proof of that. Mounted Cathars break off from the crowd, taking to the courtyards and gardens, swords and lances ready to mete out justice. Chandra and Adeline go with them, Adeline mounting her charger before helping Chandra up behind her. Ranks of guards armed with golden weapons come to meet their charge, their armor more ornamental than functional. Arrows and bolts crash into the first line of defense. Farmers with makeshift shields, old soldiers standing next to them. A return volley soon follows. Arlinn picks up a bow and lets loose herself. Hard to see where her arrow lands in all the chaos, but someone's hitting the enemy. Didn't know you were such a good shot, Kaya says. Arlinn glances toward her. Kaya's eyes are gleaming a faint silver. There's a strange taste on Arlinn's tongue, and a high-pitched sound she can't seem to place. Can't always use my teeth to hunt, Arlinn says. Everything all right? A javelin comes their way, soaring right through Kaya and clattering uselessly against a beheaded statue. There are spirits here, Arlinn, and they're very angry. Arlinn finds herself grinning. Good. Think you can get them to help us out? I'll see about cutting them loose, Kaya says. She returns the smile, but something else catches her attention. She looks toward the light. Wait, I don't think I'm alone. There's someone else calling out to me. Arlinn looks over her shoulder. The light must be coming from the ballroom. The hallway's open not too far down, and those guards have got to be coming from somewhere. Just what was going on in there? I think it's Catilda. Warmth in Arlinn's chest as fortifying as her favorite ale. Even better. Kaya nods. You keep going on ahead. I'll see about our backup. It's time the Voldarens paid their debts. And just like the ghosts, Arlinn doesn't need to be told twice. She trusts Kaya. She trusts Teferi. She trusts Chandra and Adeline. And Avacyn's mercy. She trusts Soren too. When the time comes to save Innistrad, he'll do the right thing. She's sure of it. It's only that she wants to be there, just in case. The guards are in ragged shape to begin with. Fighting them is hard work. Fighting vampires always is, but easier now than it should be. Vibrant shards of glass jut from their paled skin. Their balance is so far off that Arlinn hardly takes a single blow, making her way through them. Blood slicks the marbled floors of the Voldaren Manor, and this time it belongs to the leeches themselves. It isn't just the vampires themselves that fall, it's the statues toppled over, polished stone made jagged. It's the fountains of blood smashed apart, priests working in tandem to purify the tainted. It's the tapestries, the chandeliers, the fine carpets, and the extravagant furniture. A fiery anger burns in the heart of Innistrad. The shouts echoing down the hallway aren't simply war cries, they're more than that. Howls of agony, affirmations of life, the cathartic wails of a people who have lived in fear for far too long. Vampires built this place on the backs of mortals, and mortals will tear it asunder. By the time they break through to the ballroom, Arlinn feels the righteous anger within her too. Her inner beast struggles against its leash. Tovolar would tell her to set it loose upon these bloodsuckers. She doesn't want to agree with him, not yet, but she nearly loses control when she breaks through to the ballroom. To see Sigarda's bloodied wings, to see the fervor consuming her as her sickle reaps vampiric heads, Arlinn isn't sure what to think. It's a sight as grisly as it is invigorating. A coppery taste sticks to the roof of Arlinn's mouth. The church could be as bloody as any werewolf pack. And there are the others too, more guards, some bold enough to attack Sigarda directly. The partygoers going bestial at the sight of the intruders. As she scans the room for the key, and for Soren, there's almost too much to take in. Torn gowns, bats swirling in the air along with petals of blood, the shattered stained glass window, fountains torn, and buffet tables broken in two. It's not getting easier anytime soon, but she has to get through them somehow. A head ducking beneath the swing of a blade, tearing through silken lace to claw at her attacker, a hopped-up Markov duelist. She's fought this type before. Fancy swordplay gets you lots of places, but Arlinn doesn't need a sword to fight. The blood gushing down his side doesn't slow him, not yet. Must have glutted himself before all this started. He smells of many lives mingled together, his lips smeared thick with red. No one invited you, fashion disasters. His next cut is fast. If he was attacking anyone else, it might have been too fast to follow. But Arlinn's not alone, and the waves of magic slowing the blow down speak to that. She has enough time to dive her knee into his stomach. The vampire gurgles as the air's knocked out of him. His sword clatters to the ground. She could kill him, tear out his throat. He'd deserve it. All the things he must have done. A vampire's existence necessitates the suffering of others. But that's what Tovolar would do. Arlinn hefts him overhead and hurls him into a column. If he has any sense, he won't come after her again. She doesn't have time to see if he will. Through the melee again, trying her best to cast aside the memories of Harvesttide. This won't be the same, it can't be. The best way to stop all this is to find the key. But where is it? She sniffs at the air, hoping to get the scent, but there's too much magic to make any sense of it. Sigarda's likely. It's coming off her in waves as she fights off the lion's share of guards. Arlinn's eyes will have to serve instead. The second she spots Olivia, the cavalry arrives. Cathars break in through the windows, their war horses stained red. Bolts of magic shoot straight for the progenitor vampire as some of the priests follow. And when the priests see who's in the ballroom with them, a chorus of cheers rises. Olivia's not cheering. You, all of you, you're ruining my wedding day! She roars from atop the stairs. Hand over the key, Arlinn answers. 100 voices echo her. The key, the key! So many that the walls start to shake. The key, the key, kill! Wait, those aren't just the army's voices, and the humming in the air. Something's happening. All around them, the air itself coalesces into something else, something old. Geists. Arlinn can see their shapes now. Servants and knights, nobles and farmers. There must be hundreds of them, all materializing at once, ghostly flames alight with anger. You killed us. The voices of the dead carry well. Their weapons, she's relieved to see, do too. Like a wave of spectral force, the Geist crash against their former oppressors. And among the crowd, a familiar headdress stands out. Catilda. Arlinn doesn't need to be told to follow her. The path ahead glows a faint green, like moss on full moon nights. Arlinn charges up the steps. Olivia takes to the air, or tries to. She doesn't get very far before a familiar silhouette forms in the air behind her. Kaya plunges a spectral dagger into Olivia's fell train. Ordinary fabric would tear asunder. This magical fabric does too, and, like blood from a wound, the Geists trapped within the train burst free. Olivia's scream is a hideous thing. She thrashes, sending Kaya tumbling. If she hits the tile, there's going to be blood. Arlinn can't take any chances. She leaps into the air, catching Kaya mid-fall, landing only an instant later, but that's long enough for Olivia to flee. Arlinn looks up just in time to spot her tattered train ducking into a hallway. "Leave the fight to us," Kaya says. "Go!" Arlinn spares a glance over her shoulder at the angels, the mortals, the immortals, and the ghosts. Somewhere in that din is Soren. She can't catch sight of him yet. She doesn't have time to search. She nods. Keep them safe. It's a big ask, and she knows it. People are going to die here today. She wishes they didn't have to, but all Arlinn can do is make sure their sacrifice is worth it. And there you go, Chapter 9 of Crimson Vow Story. We get to see the other half of the continued tale of Innistrad, the characters of Midnight Hunt, as they work in tandem with Soren Markov to end the eternal night of their plane. Arlinn, despite her failings, continues to claw at hope for Innistrad. And Kaya too does something of significance finally in the story after playing a pretty minor role up to this point. We learn that Voldaren Manor is literally built upon the lost souls of humans. Even Olivia's wedding train is woven with spirits. And Kaya uses those forces to turn the tide of this battle. Even an army of vampires is going to struggle against a sea of angry ghosts. Also, a quick side note here, this has a massive Lord of the Rings, Return of the Kings vibe, just saying. Remember, if you want to catch the entire Crimson Vow story, you can find the previous chapters linked in the description below. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to show your support by hitting that like button, subscribing, and sharing it with friends. We are so close to 100,000 people in our community, and all those things go a long way in helping us reach that goal. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, see ya!